This content is brought to you in association with my buddies over at Jam Jam Cards UK. You can find the links to the eBay store and the Facebook page in the description. Hi guys, it's Joe here from Rufioh. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, welcome aboard. You should definitely hit subscribe and the notification bell before we go any further and you realise how fucking garbage this content is. But if this is not your first time on the channel, welcome back, you absolute fucking losers. Seriously though, all jokes aside, I do genuinely appreciate you being here. Now for today's video, we're going to be taking a look at my deck profile that I took to the Cardiff Regional at Firestorm Games this past weekend. I went X4, which again, not the best score in the world, but we'll go over my results and how those all tied up. And it's probably not as straightforward as I just lost 4 games because I'm bad at the game, although that's probably somewhat true. Now there isn't, however, a reflection on the deck itself, so we'll go over that again as we go through the list. And we talk about my choices, what I think works well, what I think I might change going forward, and hopefully we can see some better results. For context, we went to our locals on Tuesday night, which is yesterday, and we went 3-0. We went undefeated, and we beat good players along the way. So it was one of those where the regional just didn't turn up for me in the way I wanted it to, but it was still a very good regional all the same. It did, however, give us a really good opportunity to learn about a bunch of things that we want to maybe consider or maybe do slightly better next time around. Now quickly, before we get into the video, if you are still gearing up for this format or you're looking for any Yu-Gi-Oh singles, check out the channel sponsors Jam Jam Cards UK. There will be a link down in the description. If you go ahead and use that along with the code Rufioh15, you'll get a nice 15% discount on their eBay store. But now that I've done my obligatory shilling, we can get stuck into the deck profile. So as I previously discussed, I was considering playing a couple of different decks, but I ended up sticking with Swordsoul. We start with Swordsoul Tenyi. We decided to go for that more combo build that we're seeing a lot more of. So in a lot of ways, a lot of this will be cookie cutter, but there's a few cards that we tried out different just to see how we got on. There are a few different variations in the works. Some of people playing the Rose Dragon, some people playing the Punk Engine. I'm not playing either of those for full clarity. I'm still playing the Tenyi Swordsoul, and again, it works great so far. So anyway, we'll get stuck into the profile and stop waffling. So we start off with 3 copies of Long One. I think this is pretty self-explanatory, right? You need 3. There's no other number that's correct here. You just need it. The same in Mo. I think, again, you need to just play 3. There's, again, not much to elaborate on here. And just the 2 Tai. You still don't need the 3rd. It's really nice to see. But it's not the one you want to open as your standard normal summon. It's the one you normally want to summon off things like Yazi and combos, or one you maybe want to see a little bit later on. There are niche scenarios where this is a little bit better. For example, if you've got kind of a sticky hand, but the majority of the time, Mo is just better. And that runs off our actual Swordsoul monsters themselves. Now on to our next. So we've got triple copies of Ecclesia. If we don't just drop the cards, I'll put them on the screen. Triple copies of Ecclesia. Yeah, not much to say here. Just really, really good, especially if you do get made to go second. If you know you're going to go first, you can always side one of these out maybe or something like that. That's what I'll often do to make space for cards that need to slide in, but it is what it is. And then our final monster that isn't of another kind, let's say, 1 Despot 001, and this is in here, of course, for that Halka Fibrax combo that you need the piece. It's just really, really strong. Now on to the remainder of our monsters, which are all exclusively hand traps. We have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Yeah, not much to say on this. It's Ash Blossom. It's really, really strong, this format. I highly recommend running 3 copies of it, especially if you've got the space to do so. Triple copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. It's back with a vengeance. This card, it does this, doesn't it? Has its formats where it's in and out. Sometimes it's unplayable and other times it's absolutely insane. Well, with the Brave Engine about in the mirror match, it's really good in both of those. Against PK, it's decent. Against Prank Kids, which is, trust me, all over the fucking place. This is nice for hitting stuff like the field spell and things like that if, you know, they don't play around it. So yeah, it can be a really, really strong option and definitely one to, you know, consider running at the moment. And again, you know, we're playing other cards that make this even better as well, so we'll get into those a little bit later on down the line. But especially if you're playing things like the Punk Engine as well, it just doubles up in value. And then for our final hand trap for the main deck, we have triple copies of Artifact Lancia. This was a last minute addition. Before this I was running Imperm, and I realised Imperm just doesn't do enough at the moment. It can hit in the mirror, which is kind of nice, and there's, you know, weird rogue decks that you'll just end their turn.
But honestly, Lancy is just strong against everything. Every single standby phase that I had this, I didn't care what deck it was. If it was game 1, this was getting shotgunned in the standby, so we can't get triple tactical talents, and that never happened once in the entire tournament, so bless up. Luckily, I think we dodged a few of those, but Lancy was absolutely insane, and to me, again, you just have to play it at the moment. It has to be in the main. You can always side it out if you don't need it, but it's very rare that it's not a really strong option. Now, onto our Tenyis, of course, we have triple of the Golden Boy. This is pretty much self-explanatory again. You just need to play 3 copies of it. It's probably the best of the 3. We play triple copies of Vishuda. This one, maybe you can play it too. I just really like maxing out on the names, to be quite honest with you. It's very rare that it's not at least decent. Going second, it's obviously incredible, but even going first, it's not bad. It's just a free body on board most of the time, and it can help you get into those 8s as well. And then finally, we've upped our count of the Earth 1, 2, 3. Some people are playing blue, some people are even playing green now. We're not playing either of those. We'll just play triple copies of this, especially with the Hulk engine. It's just another tuner to get there. Quite often you can find yourself in a position where you link off the yellow to go into monk, and you special summon this, and then you go to use the effect of yellow in the grave, and that will force them to negate out of them. If they don't do it, then you're going to go like your combo anyway, and if they do stop it, you're then just going to go down the Hulk combo lines and just break them that way instead. So yeah, just having the third option in there, just really, really nice. Again, 9, 10 use perfect. You can always cut more down. If I know I'm going to go first, I'll sometimes take out a dark. Or occasionally I'll take out a brown as well if I know I'm going to be going second, because I'm not going to go through those Hulk lines, or it's certainly far less likely. Onto our spells, single copy of Desires. It's Pot of Greed. It's Pot of Greed. If it's good at 3, it's good at 1, right? I mean, if you see it, which now that it's a 1-of, you always see it in your hand anyway. You just need to play it. It says draw 2. And if you see it at the end of a combo or you draw it off a Mo, it's absolutely disgusting. We have triple copies of Vessel. This didn't really come up for me at all, actually, this whole week so far. In the tournament, the weekend, 8 rounds, and on Tuesday, another 3 rounds. 11 rounds, I maybe used it once or twice in the whole thing. So it's a bit of a weird one in that I know how good this is, but I haven't really seen enough to validate that yet, but it hasn't been a position where I've seen it and gone, this is bad. So it stays in for now, and we'll see how it gets on. Again, I just haven't seen it enough to warrant really commenting too much. We then get into triple copies of Emergency Teleport. This card's cracked. This is really, really good. It was always good. There was never a time where I saw it and it was bad. It can help you play through so much. The amount of times you can just eat a bunch of monster negates and then use this and then just go through your Hulk combo, no one can do anything. This even won me a game. I was playing against a Thunder player. I stopped his turn with draw. I burnt him in long one. I made Yugioh and Cheng Ying, and I couldn't kill him. And I get into battle phase, attack with both. He has 900 life points left. We're trying to figure out how to do it, and then we just drop this in the battle phase, summon Gamma from deck and attack, and swing for game. And that sent him packing for the day, I believe. So, felt pretty good doing that. This card was always insane. It's good when you're siding in Gammas as well, because it gives you an extra line of play. Stuff like being able to pair Yazzie with Gamma, which can come up as well. If I wasn't going to side in the Gamma, sometimes I'd side out one of these if I needed to make space, but usually keeping the 3 in there is pretty good. We then have triple copies of Emergence. It's Emergence. It literally is just Rota, right? It's pretty good. I'm not going to need to elaborate on that. I know that there are some builds, and I've seen from far better players than I, where they're actually using this for level modulation in other builds that are being used. In my build, that doesn't really come up, but certainly it's something to consider. It can help you get into Chao Feng for Darks with a bit of level modulation. And then our final spell is triple copies of Forbidden Droplet. Scythe is everywhere. However, this card was not. Unfortunately, didn't really see it. I think once or twice I saw it going first. It never came up for me when I needed to break the board. It was just never in my hand. However, I'm not a fucking idiot. I know how strong this card is, and I think you just have to play it, especially in any kind of high competitive environment, because Scythe is literally everywhere, and you need a way to stop it. And of course, it just helps you break boards in general. And one of the things that, of course, we lost from switching to this build is those board breakers, and that just helps you compensate for that a little bit. And then our final card in the main, a single copy of Swordsoul Blackout. This is one of these cards that I wish I played more copies of, but I'm already taking up quite a bit of room. I'm well over the 40 mark, I'm pretty sure. Maybe 42, 43, maybe even 44 now. There was a couple of last-minute changes, so I'm not 100% off the top of my head. It's one of those cards where, again, I wish I could see it more. It's always strong, but the fact that it's searchable makes up for a little bit as well. But yeah, always insane. Then onto the extra deck. Double copies of Yugioh. Not much to add here, I don't think. 2 copies is perfectly fine. You do go through 2 in, an awful lot of games, actually, especially if they get a little bit grindy. Yeah, 2's pretty much perfect. Single copy of Tenyi. This card's wonderful. There's some games where you just summon this and they just auto-lose on the spot. They can't do anything about it. Just absolutely dumb. We are now playing the new one, Swordsoul, Sinister Sovereign, Kijing Long One, or whatever his name is. Hopefully I pronounced that okay. This hasn't come up for me a single time yet. However, in my actual testing, it's been very good. So, again, not really come up in physical play, but come up in testing plenty. It's again, it seems like a really good option. Not really seen enough of it to comment too much at this stage, but like on paper, it's absolutely cracked. There's no question of that. And if you can get to the extra synchros, which you probably can if you're a better player than I am and you're a bit more resourceful, then this is going to come up for you loads. Drawing extra cards, I mean, summoning with Mo and then getting, like 2 draws and a search or something like that is just, it's dumb. It does come up. I've seen those kind of weird plays where it happens. It's just really, really cracked. You can start just going Mega Plus by having the option of this available to you. We then move on to our Tenyi extra deck monsters. We have double copies of Monk. 2 is absolutely plenty. It's mostly there just to put a Tenyi in the grave, but it does sort of double up as allowing your Tenyis to go off as well. 1 copy of Shaman of the Tenyi. This hasn't really come up for me since we've gone from the Go Second build. I was discussing this with Carl over at Team Shift. He thinks this is pretty much surplus to requirements. It's not really needed. And I'm beginning to think he's correct. It's not really come up as much. Again, in the older builds it did. But in this one, not so much. So probably this is a flex spot that you can change. And then a single copy of Draco Berserker. Again, another one of these cards that feels like could be a bit of a flex spot. But there are some games where it's just absolutely insane. And also the question of, well, what else would you really play? So at this stage, this seems fine. Again, probably cut the Shaman. And if you want another flex spot, this could probably go as well. On to the Yangzing. So a single copy of Yazi. This card's great. Not much to say here. Fantastic. And of course, way more live now. The fact that we can get into Chaofeng for a bit of extra value with this. Make it for Darks instead, which is kind of nice. 2 copies of Baxia. This is actually probably my favourite card in the extra deck. I actually fucking love this card. So I didn't play when this card was around before. I wasn't around during that time, so I never really got the appreciation for it. And I played Yazi loads, so I was like, Yazi's, he's the boy. There's no question. He's the best one. But my God, Baxia's fucking insane. It just breaks boards. It gets you through combos. It does absolutely everything you could need in a card. The only real shame is that it's not generic 8. Otherwise, it'd be absolutely stupidly abusable. But yeah, it's still very, very good. And again, in this deck, you need to play 2 copies. I really, really couldn't see myself bringing this below 2 as it stands. And then our final of the Yangzings, we have 1 single copy of Chaofeng. Chaofeng is a bit of a game winner, actually. Yeah, if you set it up nicely, and your opponent doesn't just happen to have Dark Rule alone more, like happens to me apparently, then this card just wins you games on the spot. It's just absolutely dumb. Just again, very, very easy to make either light or dark in this deck as well. Especially after game 1 when you know that you can put in things like Gammas if you want to get access to Darks a little bit easier. But yeah, just a really, really strong card. And again, that just kind of makes up the standard Yangzing package. I think most people are playing those ratios. Some people may be playing the 1 Baxia, but I think 2 is perfect. Then on to our other cards, kind of. We have a single copy of Baron. Baron's Baron, yeah, it's like one of the linchpins of the deck. We have a single copy of Auroradon, that's for the combo, and a single copy of Halka Fibrax, also for the combo. Again, not much to add here. What these do, however, and kind of in conjunction with Fleur, is they mean that you can get to a negate very, very early if you're uninterrupted. And if you are uninterrupted with these, the ceiling of the deck is quite a bit higher, actually. Maybe an extra synchro on board or something like that. But in the modern game, an extra negate or an extra 2 negates potentially that you get to that you wouldn't have got to otherwise, as well as being able to add back other resources, use less resources, any of those kind of scenarios that do come up. It is absolutely insane. Unfortunately for me at the weekend, every time I seem to get through this combo, my opponents would just have like something silly like Dark Ruler, as happened to me in my last round, which, again, I'll get to in my matchups later on, but it was just absolutely ridiculous. And then on to the side deck. Some tokens here, just like the sleeves, just relevant for this, because of this, whatever. Anyway, side deck, so we have triple copies of Droll and Lockbird. This was quite nice. Again, played the Flunder guy, this just ended his turn. It didn't really come up otherwise, but, it's on those cards that the decks that it does come up against, it's usually a win button. So having that there is really nice. I was considering cutting it at one point, and we opted to just keep it in after a bit of a chat with one of the guys, and it paid off. It was really, really good. Triple copies of Gamma, and of course the single driver to go with it. This was absolutely filthy the whole weekend. Every time it came up, it was insane. Even just down to being able to get an extra tuner on board to go through Hulk plays, or just make synchros, that kind of thing. Just absolutely dumb. This card's fucking cracked. It's great to see it back in the game. I love this card. I never really appreciated it until maybe like a couple of years ago. And then I started playing it. I've never looked back. I've always really, really liked the card. Just always a great option to have. Onto some of our other cards. We've got 2 spells here in Lightning Storm. Just 2 copies because that's all we have the room for. It would have meant omitting something else to play the third. This just didn't really come up, but it's there just for back row decks. And unfortunately, I haven't really played any. I was expecting actually to play maybe a few Eldritch or something like that. There just wasn't any around. I'm not sold that they'll even be that good this format. Triple copies of Cosmic Cyclone. Cyclone. Just back row removal. It's good against Scythe. It's good against the Brave Engine. It's good against, just pretty much anything, actually. Most decks use a really good field spell or 2. Lots use plenty of good continuous spells. It's good against weird decks like, I don't know, if you play Tri-Lunar or something like that. You can just hit Pendulum Scales. Just a very, very strong card. Just really, really good. Good against Prankids as well for hitting the fusion spell in standby phase. Just overall fantastic. And I think you just need to play this. It's got to be played this format, in my opinion. And then for our final cards here, we have triple copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance. I actually found this conflicting a little bit for me, seeing a lot of spells, alongside this, and then I'd be in positions where I couldn't activate. But then the payoff, of course, is that a lot of the time when you flip this, it is basically Imperial Order, right? You skip your opponent's turn. So it's very, very strong. Again, it didn't come up much for me at the weekend, but on locals yesterday, it was absolutely fantastic. So maybe just a bit of bias going on there in my mind. I'll still keep it in for now and just see how we get on. It was so good last format, there's no reason why it shouldn't be good this one as well. So that rounds off the actual profile itself. Just a quick discussion on the event and matchups. So again, X4 was the score in the end. Not my finest score by any stretch of the imagination. It was a big regional. If I think about my wins and losses, so I lost round 1 to Adamantipator, who I think I had one questionable ruling that I wasn't really sure about personally. That was to do with excavation. I cleared that up with the guys afterwards. I got that one wrong. But it wouldn't have cost me the game anyway. This guy was just... I had good hands, but he just saw everything. Literally everything. Every time I do anything, he saw an answer to it. Every time he'd excavate, he'd get exactly what he needed. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And the most annoying part was that he followed me around the rest of the regional. He was constantly sat next to me, and I was watching him whiff all of his excavates. So sometimes it do be like that. So that was that one. I can't really remember what my wins are. I'm more bothered about my losses and what I could have done maybe differently. I lost the mirror match to one of the guys from locals, Makela, who's been on the channel before. Made a couple of misplays against him, had a bit of a brain fog in the middle of a line of play, but I still don't think I was really winning that one anyway, just based off the hands I had weren't that amazing. So we lost the mirror match there. We lost... Our other 2 losses were Prank Kids. We lost to a guy who made tons and tons of misplays. Unfortunately for me, I just couldn't see any cards to capitalise on it. And then when I did, he'd already gained too much advantage. So a little bit unlucky there. And then my final round was again Prank Kids. We had a decent game 1, a nice back and forth. But unfortunately, I'd set up a nice board. He went Dark Ruler. And then it was basically a bit of a grind game, which of course, Prank Kids just win that in the end. And then our game 2 was more or less the same, actually. Went first, Dark Ruler, cracks the board. But unfortunately this time there was not really any grind game to be had. So we tried to survive for a few turns, but it was just too much. So a little bit unfortunate. Again, Prank Kids were pretty much the bane of the day. We lost to Rocks, which really is a game we should win. And the mirror match should be like a 50-50. We were both playing go first builds. We've both been playing the deck a little while, and he's a good player, so there's no issues there. In terms of wins, I beat Flunder. I beat Earth Machines. I beat... what else did I beat? I can't remember. Anyway, but those are the 2 matches that sort of stick out in my mind as wins. It was overall, it was a decent event. Of course, results leaving a little bit to be desired. It was fantastic to see lots of faces, people I've spoken to online, hadn't seen before. I was signing a bunch of stuff, probably more stuff signed in one day than I've ever done before combined. So it was quite cool to, again, meet people who enjoy the content, which is always nice. But yeah, overall, a very good event. Yeah, not much else to add on that. Thank you very much for coming along, guys. Hopefully you've learned something from this profile, got some ideas about things you might want to try yourself, maybe things you might like to avoid yourself. If you've got any comments about things that you're trying out that work really, really well, I'd love to hear it. There is also a Swordsoul group that I run. I'll put a link down in the description for that on Facebook. You're welcome to come and get involved and join in. It's pretty active and there's lots to be talked about there. Once again, a massive thank you for making it this far into the video. I do genuinely appreciate it. If you haven't already, you should most definitely hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.